All right, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the eight-figure blueprint and essentially help you better understand where success will come from. Okay, so basically, what creates success is your ability to execute your combined knowledge of your market. So basically, their desires, how aware they are, how sophisticated it is, like how well you understand the market, in combination, again, combined with your understanding of your product. Okay. So the physical and the functional versions of it. Okay. The depth at which your skills allow you to take that understanding to generate content, craft winning ad creatives, optimize your messaging, everything that we've been through. Okay. And as a result, allow you to channel the desires that exist in the market, build believability with the market, and identify with your potential customers is what's going to determine your success. Okay. This is, if you need to boil it down to one sheet, what creates success, this is it. Okay. If you are struggling to get results, it's either because you don't understand your market, you're not executing properly, or again, you don't understand your product. And that's what I actually want to get into today. Okay. Because most importantly, your product is what will create the majority of your success. You can do all of this. Okay. You can execute perfectly. You can understand your market to a T, right? Which, if you actually understand your market perfectly, I'll explain that in a second. And you can generate great content, craft winning ad creatives, optimize your messaging, and really give people what they want. But if your product is not superior, you will struggle. Okay. Here's an example of a client of ours. This is the same client, by the way. Okay. Product A that we were advertising through September was basically version 1 of this product. Okay. And we were doing pretty good. We were doing above a 3x. Okay. But we were only spending about $7,000 a month. Okay. Now, depending on where you're at, obviously when clients are paying us a pretty big billable, we're not spending enough. Okay, we need to be spending more. So what did we do? Well, we continued to execute. We continued to dive deeper and understand the market. And what we actually then saw is that the client did that as well. Okay, the client understood the market. And what did they do? They developed a new product. And within the next 30 days, we were literally able to go from spending $7,000 a month to $40,000 a month. We were able to 5x our spend, even a little bit more than that, while actually increasing our returns. Okay. That is the power of product. And that is what product can do for your business. We did not change our strategy. We continue to test creatives. We continue to do research. We continue to try to execute the best way that we could. But what was the one thing that really exploded sales? It was the development of a new superior product. Okay. Show you another example. The iPhone, right? You've probably heard me talk about this if you've been through the psychology section, which is very important. But let's compare the iPhone versus the BlackBerry, right? What do you think is actually the superior product here? What is the superior product based if you were to actually do research on what customers actually want and the functionalities and what's capable, right? What is the superior product? Well, it was obviously the iPhone. Okay, the iPhone didn't even need to outmarket BlackBerry. All they needed to do was just show their product and say, this is our product and it's better. Okay. That is, again, the importance of product. And again, like I just mentioned there, Apple did not have to outmarket them. Okay. They just made a better product. And so if you want to succeed on easy mode, just make the best product that you can. And again, I know it's not easy to just go and make a perfect product, because obviously if I could do that, I would just go and do it. If it's so easy, Spencer, why don't you just go and do it, right? I get it that it's not easy, but if you have gone through the research side of things and you now have a really good understanding of what your customers are looking for and how you could potentially stand out in the market based off of all the things that people complain about and all the things that people really want to see, you can actually create a superior product. Okay. If you have ever been burned by an agency before, or you've ever been burned by a marketer before, or you feel like you've gone through this entire program and you got burned, even though this is, again, I don't want to get into it, but it just means that your product can be better. All right. Which is honestly the best way to look at it. You're like, okay, well, I just went through this program, still not seeing results. So I guess that just means my product can be better. okay? Because we have seen ads, websites, and strategies that are flat out terrible, like horrible. If you saw these strategies, you'd be like, what are they doing? Okay. But they still get results and they still work. Why does that happen? Because of product. Okay. Again, hopefully you're starting to understand, as with content, how important product is, because you could have a terrible strategy. You could optimize for link clicks. You could run a photo of your product on a white background and you could say, buy this. But if your product is good enough, you will actually still get results. Okay. So what I want you to do is just ask yourself, based on some of the research that you've done, because you should have gone through and done a lot of research on your market, on what people want, and actually better understanding your product, you need to look at it and lay this out. What are the weaknesses of my product? Okay. What are the strengths of my product? And is there really anything that makes my product unique? Is there something that I can go in and say, hey, like, this is our position in the market. This is where we can stand out. Okay. And after looking through all the other options, do you actually think, and again, do you actually see that you have a superior product? Now, and if you don't, that's okay. That's fine, because you should, like, if you're trying to compete with brands that spend millions of dollars a year on product development, like AG1 or something like that, it's going to be tough to compete with them. But how can you find a way to position yourself to make it more unique or make it different so you can get to that point where you can build a superior product, right? But one thing that it says down there that is super important is that your opinion does not matter. It is the market's opinion that matters. Okay. So what I want you to do to take from this is really look at your product and really, really ask yourself these questions based on the research is, do I actually have a superior product? You wouldn't believe how many times I get on calls with brands and I have a conversation with them like, really, what makes your product unique? Well, nothing really. It's just kind of like every other product. Well, why? I get that obviously there's a market there. Like, if you're just selling a product, there's going to be people that buy that product. But at the end of the day, if you're really trying to scale and you're really trying to grow and you're really trying to stand out in the market, your product needs to be superior in some kind of way. Okay. It doesn't need to be superior in all ways, but it needs to be superior in some kind of way, or it needs to be branded extremely well. That is a whole nother topic. That's a whole other discussion. And to be honest, I am not a brand specialist, but there will be some more information that we cover talking about brand. Okay. So for example, some of these businesses like Liquid Death, if you've never heard of them before, it's a brand that sells water in a can. Okay. But they have branded it so well. And it, again, has this identity. And again, we're talking about a commodity product, right? Something that is so sophisticated. It's water, right? So building a brand is going to do a lot more than saying our water is better. It's like, it's water. It's basically all the same, right? But they branded it in a way to identify with specific people who wanted to kind of, hey, what are you drinking there? It's like Liquid Death. It's like, well, it's just water. Like that's all it is, right? So you can understand how that resonates with a certain amount of people. But back to product in specifically, if you are looking at your product, say, for example, you're selling bars of soap, and if you don't know how to build an incredible brand, which is a very, very hard thing to do, you need to try to find a way to make your product superior. Okay. So take a look at some of the brands in your market, the ones that are absolutely crushing it. And if you don't really have any competition, then that could be your sign that you're in a kind of more of a blue ocean market. But at the end of the day, it needs to be things that the market actually cares about. So what are strengths of my product that the market cares about? Don't just say, oh, the strength of my product is that, I make it myself. People don't care. Okay. If it delivers the same outcome, a lot of people won't even care. Okay. Maybe there's a certain amount of people that will care, but it needs to be something that is big enough to actually get the market to really, really believe that you have a superior product. So I could talk about this for a very, 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 very long time, but I just want to emphasize the importance of product, and the 8-figure brand blueprint really is about having a superior product.